Hi, I'm Meta Spencer. Today is the last Sunday in April 2026, and therefore it's time for our Global Town Hall. Once a month, we get together, all kinds of activists around the world and well-wishers, and we talk about our issues. So I'm about to open the door and let people in. I see that there are two people there, but I haven't decided to let them in until now. So here we are, 3 minutes early. I'm opening the door. And who is here? Well, we have Pierre Jasmin, who is a Francophone activist in Montreal. And also we have a bot, Brian Van Hertzen, who sometimes shows up and sometimes he just sends a machine to take a recording. How's everything in California, Marilyn? I understand there's a governor's race going on in California and that a professor has just joined the race because somebody else...
Yeah, I don't know what to say. I'm still trying to figure it out myself because then one of the people, all of a sudden, he was accused of something.
How you doing?
Oh, I keep having ups and downs.
Well, you don't have to explain it because the world is full of such.
Okay. Many reasons for ups and downs.
Indeed.
I'm with Paul on that. That's what's going on with me.
So what's new in the world? Alex, I'll tell you something I was just reading not 10 minutes ago. I finished reading an article in the New York Times by David French, who's one of their routine columnists. And he says that Zelensky is now the leader of the Western world or something like that. And he made a good case for it. It's a long article, long column. And he says that everything that Trump has been doing has been withdrawing support and relationships with Europe primarily, and then of course he gets mad at them because they don't come and help him when he wants to bomb Iran. But he's been just cutting off ties, and so now Europe is as fast as possible regrouping to become very independent. That Ukraine just astounded the world by saying, as Zelensky did, I'm not going away, I'm not fleeing the country, I'm going to stay and fight. And they've done such a superb job of it that he says that the most incredible leader of the Western world now is Zelensky, and that the fighting capacity and intention of the Ukrainian military is very impressive. Well, I'm a peace activist. I've hardly ever in my life supported a war, but I actually believe now that because of Putin's proclivities, that really it's extremely important for Ukraine to win this war. And I don't hesitate to say they have to be supported. And I'm going to get somebody mad at me right now for saying that, because it's very provocative. But here comes Brian Van Hertzen. I just challenged him to show up. So when he gets his camera going, there you are, Brian. That does not look like you. What are the sunglasses all about?
It's sunny out here. I'm in Berkeley, and the sun's shining, so I'm wearing sunglasses. But I could take them off.
Where are you in Berkeley? You're in my home turf.
Oh, well, we're staying with friends here, and
what street are you on?
Oh, 7th Street.
On 7th Street?
Yeah. You're
down close to the bay.
Yes.
Oh, you're down close to that shopping. See, what happened is they moved all of the fun things from Telegraph Avenue down to close to the bay. That was after I left the city. I lived there for 20 years.
Oh, that's great. Well, it's lots of gardens here. There's some beautiful trumpet flowers in the back,
All right.
and it's all very gorgeous. I enjoy the neighborhood flowers this time of year, especially.
Hi, Bill. Like how are you?
Oh, I'm doing okay. Yeah,
All right.
been really busy.
Doing what?
Giving presentations to various organizations and groups. It's Earth Month, you know. Earth Day evolved into Earth Month.
I didn't know that. When did
And
that
so,
happen?
and so I've been giving presentations about that little gray fox behind me.
Uh-huh.
And the last one was on Friday, and that one fetched me a good, well, let's see, donation.
Uh-huh.
And it was a Rotary Club that I was speaking to, and they were ecstatic about what I had to present.
Well, good.
Maybe that's a little overboard, but they were really good.
Well, I can understand that because I know Richard Denton, and Richard just appeared, and Richard is a big time Rotarian. So I'm not surprised that that these guys have been supportive. What did you tell them that they most wanted to praise you for doing?
Well, they had so many questions at the end that we ran out of time.
Really?
It was just one question after another. But one of the ones that I think they keyed in on really, I saw a lot of really expressions on their faces out there, was when you, when I talk about the gray fox being the basal canid, all other canines are younger than that little critter behind me. And genetically speaking, that gray fox is about 10 million years old. And it is Eurasian, and it cannot breed with any other canid on the planet. And so when you're looking at a gray fox, you're looking at a genetic replica that goes directly back unbroken for 10 million years.
So they all have to be gray foxes, not red foxes or anything.
That's right. They're gray foxes. Yeah.
Wow. That's kind of snooty of them. Why are they so picky?
How are they so what?
Picky.
I don't know. They had a lot of good questions though.
Oh, so, that was a stupid question. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, I won't pursue a stupid question. Richard Denton, you are welcome to say hello to Bill Lackham if you haven't met before, because Bill is very thrilled to have just had a good conversation and presentation to some Rotarians. And have you been to
Yes.
Have you been to a Rotarian meeting with naturalists?
Yes. I'm here in Spain right now. I've just finished walking the Camino, and in Santiago, we planted a peace pole out at the university with fellow Rotarians. And today, as you know, is the 89th anniversary of the bombing of Guernica. And I just spent the day in Guernica and went to the Peace Museum, which was excellent. What surprised me about the Peace Museum today was that not only did they go over the history of that led up to the bombing of Guernica by the Nazis and the Italians, but what surprised me was that they also had a bit on reconciliation. And I thought that was appropriate because certainly we have a number of conflicts around the world, and we've had reconciliation after the apartheid in South Africa. We've had the reconciliation after our abuse of our indigenous people. That's still, of course, a program in progress. They've got 94 resolutions or things that they would like to get done, and we're not even halfway there. But I thought that reconciliation is certainly what is needed in a number of these war zones. And I think this is the trouble, is that we haven't had reconciliation. And so therefore, the abuses continue.
Mm-hmm.
And until we get reconciliation, be it in Ukraine, be it with the Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank with Israel, and also with Iran and Israel, then we're not going to have peace. I think this is the trouble, is that what they're looking at now with peace in Iran is very superficial, and that it just looks at symptoms but doesn't look at the root causes. And as a result, the peace, if it does come, right now we do have an extended ceasefire, but without reconciliation, without addressing the root causes, then it's going to flare up once again.
I have a theory that the important thing is, of course, you want to know about the root causes, but that alone will not do it. I really don't believe in so-called reconciliations that people that involve forgiveness without any apology, really. I honestly don't believe I can ever forgive somebody who has wronged me unless that person recognizes and regrets and says that they regret what they did. And so people who go around saying, well, let's all reconcile without having established a basis for mutual trust, I don't believe the reconciliation. I don't honestly think it's possible.
No, I agree with you, Meta, that certainly you need to have genuine apology from the perpetrator, and that again, I think you need to address the root causes, though, and that you need to have justice afterwards. I don't think that you're ever going to forget what has occurred, but I think that it is possible to forgive and move on if you, as you say, get a genuine apology from the perpetrator.
But I'm always surprised at how reluctant most people are to apologize. For one thing, parents no longer teach their children the importance of apologies. And those children grow up and would rather choke than say, yes, I was wrong. And I know people like that who I think have, people who are close to me, who I think have never apologized really for anything in their lives. Maybe, yes, I should have wiped up cleaned up the dishes after supper. Maybe they'll acknowledge something that trivial, but there are people who just plain never apologize when the most valuable thing that you can possibly do is say, you're right. I was really wrong. And it hurts me to think about how wrong I was. And I'm never going to do a thing like that again, I hope. And I'm so sorry. And I really wish I hadn't hurt you. And if people can say that, it's just magical how easy it is to forgive. But it is just astounding that there are so many people who would die rather than say that.
Yeah,
correct. And certainly, I think you look at south of the border, that leader's whole life has been one of not to apologize.
Mm-hmm.
South of the border.
he's he's uh, um, he's in Spain, so no doubt he's talking about Morocco. Right. Anyway, yes, Ryan. Hello, glad to
Oh,
see you.
I was just asking a arbitrary question if anyone recalls if Trump has ever apologized for anything.
No, no,
Oh, I don't think he's
never.
ever apologized, but I do remember in talking about his brother who died. I don't know whether it was suicide or he just drank himself to death or something like that. But he had a brother who, by most measures, would be considered to have failed a lot in life. And I know that one time uh, Donald said something like, we tried to force him to be the kind of person that we are, and he wasn't that way, and we should have let him be the kind of person he basically was. So it was a regret, but it wasn't phrased as an apology. But it was the only time I have ever seen him say, I made a mistake. And that was that kind of statement.
When was that?
Well, I don't know. This man's daughter is writing books about the Trump family. The niece of Donald is writing books. So she's been in business doing these books for about 10 years anyway. So her father would have died maybe 20 years ago. I don't know.
Yeah. And according to my research, 2005 was the last time that we have a possible recording of a Trump apology. He made
Really?
lewd comments about women and released a tape video statement saying that he was wrong and he apologized. So every couple decades, maybe. Anyway, it's not zero, but it's pretty darn low.
Well, but I wonder why it is so rare now. It used to be.
It goes with the dark
Even
triad.
the tradition in European government was if you accused a cabinet minister or some government official of bad conduct, they would resign. They could not continue. They would immediately resign. It was a matter of honor that if anybody had any doubts about them, they had to resign. Well, now, of course, all the politicians I know will generally fight as long as they can to keep from being accused of any misbehavior. So again, it's not an apology. It's I've been forced to resign because of public pressure, and therefore I will resign, but only with great reluctance because I'm really right and everybody else is wrong. So I don't know.
Dark triad revisited.
Yeah.
But they could get so much more mileage by being principled and wanting to make sure that people could had every reason to trust them and
That
forgive them.
that requires reasoning.
Yeah, that does. Okay.
Just to add to that, Meta, is to me that there is hope in the world in that during the Second World War, our enemies were Germany, Italy, and Japan, and now they're our friends.
Mhm.
So somehow there has been some reconciliation there.
And that was, I think the Marshall Plan was really an unusual and a brilliant move because it really did make a difference. And yet, I mean, it wasn't an apology. Certainly, the U.S. had more reason to continue demanding apologies from Germany and Japan than vice versa. Except from my point of view, when you talk about Hiroshima,
That was the beginning of the world order, and now Pax Americana is over.
You bet.
So we have to figure out what's going to replace it.
And given up just for no reason, for absolutely no.
I agree with you.
Yeah, it's just weird.
Well, there's a Project 2025 reason, and it's rather premeditated. So I think it is a lot more of
Explain.
Oh yeah, Project 2025. There's actually a scoreboard online that will track how many of the goals they've achieved in the last 12 or 18 months. And it's about 2/3 of them. So there is a master plan to all this, and it's really about hegemony and the loss of the destruction of democracy. There's a great book on this topic called Democracy in Chains that goes in great detail to describe the objectives of the hegemons to actually derail democracy. And they practiced this in South America and Central America, and now they're doing it in the US.
I don't think I've read, or even do you know who the authors are of that?
I can find the link for you in just a second, so I'll post it in the chat.
Sounds fascinating. Does anybody else have a theory about why people? I think that's really a very, very key question. Why these anti-democrats do want to abolish democracy? What do they think they're going to get from it? Because it's certainly no greater power. They lose. The U.S. loses enormously.
Nancy MacLean wrote this book, and it's The Deep History of the Radical Right Stealth Plan for America. I'll post the link.
Have you read it?
No, I think Meta, it is power and it's money for these people. It's personal. It's not in the best interests of the United States, but it's in the best interests of these very right-wing people. So it's in their personal interest that this is happening. Democracy, again, I was surprised to learn here in the Basque country. I'm now up in Bilbao of Spain, and the government brought in heroin back in the 70s and 80s to destabilize the population, and luckily they've been able to overcome that and have now gotten rid of heroin addiction here. And I look at my own city of Sudbury in Northern Ontario, Canada, and we've had over 200 people who have died from drug overdoses. And the mental illness is not being looked after. The homelessness is not being looked after. But again, you need to educate people first and to address the drug addiction.
Okay, now it's clear that the guys, or the people selling the drugs, have financial reason to want to keep doing it. But if you ask them what is their theory about why that's a good thing to do? I mean, Brian says something about, or you said, no, you just said that somebody had the notion that they wanted to upset the population or
destabilize.
Destabilize. What was the theory? Explain on that. I don't get it. How would
Again, if you have a destabilized population, then it's easy to control, and you then the people in power can manipulate things for their own personal advantage, not the country's, but their own personal advantage.
Just like the Opium Wars.
Well, yeah, that's true. The Opium Wars, I guess there was a theory behind it. I don't know. I've never read much about it.
The British Empire exported opium to China.
Yeah, I know. And they must have had a theory of how it's going to help them, but did it help them?
It's created enormous resentment. I think China's still working to recover. I don't think it serves humanity at all. And I think we need to focus on the fact that we are all brothers and sisters from just 55,000 years ago.
Yep.
Amen. Amen, Brian.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do they still have a heroin problem in China?
Less, but I think it's now been retaliated, and they provide a lot of the ingredients for crystal methamphetamine in the United States and fentanyl. And it's cheap to produce. The ingredients are in broad supply in China. And, it's almost like a retribution thing. I mean, it's hard to say.
You say that the Chinese export of fentanyl and stuff is intended by the Chinese government?
I think it's ambiguous. You have to recognize the Chinese government is a state actor that's working to commit cyber sabotage across the developed world. China is doing it, North Korea is doing it, and several others. And that's well documented at this point. So if they're doing cyber war, why not drug war?
Okay, guys, this is for you to talk about. I'm going to sit back and think because I don't have an opinion about this. I have never even considered it.
Yeah,
Do
the
you think,
cyber war is well established at least, but I'm
well,
happy
what
to.
do you all think about that? Is that a credible theory? It, I would, I hope it's not a true statement of fact. I mean, although I like Brian, I don't want to agree with him right now.
Brian, how does it play out?
Oh, I think there's this, at best, it's a competition. And Anthropic's pretty clear about viewing this as a state challenge. Trump's considering handing out the real dangerous NVIDIA chips to China. And I think Dario has a point that this is a strategic, could be a weapon, and it needs to be treated, as cautiously as state secrets, cryptography, and proliferation of nuclear weapons. It is serious.
I would say that the United States is doing this as well. I mean, years ago, the United States was spying on all its allies.
Yeah.
And that came to light. And of course, now it's progressed to AI and, as you say, much more cryptic.
And I think there's a race, there's an AI race right now, and the challenge is only with bilateral negotiations where China and the U.S. would come together and agree to limit the deployment of data centers. Actually, autonomous killing machines are much more critical. The whole rigmarole a couple weeks ago, because Anthropic refused to allow their AI models to be used for autonomous killing machines and for broad spectrum American surveillance, resulted in this huge thing, and OpenAI bent over backwards to do everything the Pentagon wanted. I think instead we need to be really working towards bilateral negotiations to limit the deployment of and the development of super intelligent AI, and to focus more on useful AI in the hands of the many rather than the few. So I think there's a balanced approach, and at least a perspective. I'd love to see us come together, but I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Well, what are you all? I mean, obviously we're not representative of any population, but of you whose faces I can look at now, how many of you approve of what Anthropic did, and how many of you see the good rationale in the Pentagon's response, which was pretty dismissive to Anthropic, right?
It was more than dismissive. They banned any defense contractor from using Anthropic models. So it was quite a pan, and I think there's a lawsuit in court right now. They took the high ground. Unfortunately, after this event where OpenAI took the Pentagon contract, Anthropic has weakened their position from constitutional AI to we're going to be less bad than all the other major competitors. So they've, under shareholder pressure, they've had to weaken their position, I believe.
That's interesting, because what I was reading immediately afterward was this was great for Anthropic because it made them look, like the angels, the only moral people in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, I do have a lot of respect for Dario's position on constitutional AI. However, I think he's under enormous shareholder pressure at the moment, and ultimately that kind of extractionary capitalism exerts enormous pressure on the direction of a company.
So Anthropic is the owner of what, Claude?
Yes,
Okay,
they're
now
developing.
I've been using Claude a little bit more lately, just because I wanted to show my support. And most of the time I was using Gemini, but I've got a technical problem with Gemini that I haven't been able to work out yet. I get either Gemini or Anthropic or Claude to write these little essays that I post on our Substack after about each of the shows that we make. Every episode I get an essay written about 1,000 words or 12 or 1,500 words about that essay, and I post it. Of course, I have to massage it a little bit beforehand, but basically they're written by AI. And the truth is, a lot of people get very offended and outraged because I'm, I guess, turning against my own species. but it enables me to do things that I wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. There's no way in the world I could write an essay myself and do it in the time I have available if I didn't use some help like that. And I have to say that those machines are really good writers, and they are better than I am. And that one of the big things about my life that I'm most proud of is I'm a good writer. I don't have many qualifications, but I'm a good writer. But it's better. I mean, they're better than I am, and they're going to get better. And I just did a show with the guy who had been the president of McGraw-Hill, and he was an old friend. So I did day before yesterday, I think I did a show with him, and we talked about it. And he says, well, the textbook business is still flourishing, but people buy the textbooks on their iPads. That's where they read them. They don't buy physical print books anymore. And I said, well, the time isn't very far off when those books will be written as well by AI. And they could do it right now if they wanted to.
Agreed. Anthropic and Gemini represent the high ground, I think, with respect to the ethical and moral dimensions. So I think that is commendable. The only addition I would make to that is NVIDIA's Nematron 3, which the Nano and Super versions have been released. And when they release Ultra this quarter, it'll be a frontier model with 500 billion weights that is open source, open weights, and open training, which to me represents an opportunity for AI to reach the hands of the many rather than the few. And I believe that's going to give a better hope for humanity to enable communities to take charge and sovereignty over their own AI. And actually, I'm going to the Silicon Valley Internet Identity Workshop on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of this week, where we'll be talking about individual and group identities, like this group, being first-class entities and taking back the sovereignty of our data, which is going to be pretty critical in the months and years ahead.
You are hereby appointed to be our rapporteur.
That would be fine.
All about it. Can we get together afterward and talk about it?
Happy to do that after this Thursday.
Well, I've just hired a new person for our Peace Magazine editorial board. Hired meaning, put that in quotation marks, because he doesn't get paid. Nobody gets paid. But this is a guy named Alan Hyrick, who has worked in cyber and AI all his life. He has a PhD from Caltech in way back when, and he's retired. So he's been doing this a long time, and he's going to be in charge of keeping us well connected or better connected with AI platforms and companies and news. So he's in Half Moon Bay, which is about 100 miles from where you are.
Yeah.
And that's where he lives, and he'll be working from there. But maybe you should guys get in touch and
yeah, I know. I
Now,
know, Alan. So I'll get
can
back in touch with
anybody
him.
go there, or do you?
Yes, I mean the fees are not inexpensive. It's pretty high to go to the workshop, but I'm looking forward to attending for the first time and participating. It's an unconference, and I should mention the week after next, I'm also going in person now to the Global Climate Repair Convergence in Port Townsend, Washington, put forward by Richard. I'm gonna have to look up his name again. Apologize. And a lot of key stakeholders, Buckminster Fuller Institute's going there, Eco Restoration Alliance. We're going to be going there. And it's a chance to really convene world thought leaders on what we need to do for climate repair. And then I've invited by Dr. Sumitra Das to go to India in August and help to lead the Keep India Cool Summit with government leaders, where we are working to enable India to help lead the way for the global South to address the existential threat of warming that's existential for their nations to survive the difficult decades to come. So 3 events coming up.
Oh boy, you've given me a huge opening to too many things for me to swing at. Tell me, why India? What is India doing that is special?
Well, if people have read Ministry for the Future, which is a science fiction, chapter 1 discusses the death of millions of Indians due to the wet bulb temperatures exceeding 30 degrees Celsius.
Mm.
And it becomes so hot, you can't sweat, you can't perspire, you can't cool off. People just die. And we're close to that already in places like Calcutta and other coastal cities in India. And the challenge and the opportunity, I mean, at some level, cooling is a convenience for the global north, but it is a necessity for the global south. It is a matter of survival. It's an existential threat. And we aim to propose local, transparent, community-led projects that can actively cool locales and regions and keep the climate cool, keep India cool, based on community action. And
Well, that's a terrific agenda. Guys, you join the conversation. This is your man. Talk to him, because I'm sure you all have questions. Either if maybe you want to go back to talking about AI, because we got a choice right now. He's working on both.
AI and climate, and actually Climate Week last week covered both topics quite extensively.
Mm-hmm.
65,000 participants and 1,000 presenters. It was like drinking from a fire hose.
What was this in San Francisco? Or?
San Francisco Climate Week 2026, just
Where
last
did
week.
they meet?
Everywhere. We met on an aircraft carrier. We met family offices here in Alameda on the USS Hornet, and in San Francisco and all over the Bay Area.
Oh, yeah.
Just again, mentioned a few concrete examples. Sudbury has gone from being the most polluted city due to acid rain from the refining to planting the 10th millionth tree, and is now being regreened. I'm here in Bilbao, and 80% of the Basque area gets their energy now from renewables. And so, I think there are some examples of hope in the world, Meta. And again, hopefully, you can bring that to India. There's, certainly, if India could start replanting trees, I think that would be a big help. While walking the Camino, and here in Spain, I'm amazed at the number of eucalyptus trees that are everywhere. There's now forests of eucalyptus, because it's a very fast-growing tree, and bamboo, I gather, is certainly a lot faster. So, maybe these are solutions as well.
Are they planting these eucalyptus trees? I have a memory of being our house in Muscoy, California, on the edge of San Bernardino, was surrounded by 1,000 eucalyptus trees, which made a big mess. They dropped their bark, and you wouldn't want to walk under a eucalyptus tree. And I've heard that there are other disadvantages ecologically. Am I making a mistake, or is there real reason to have doubts about eucalyptus?
Yeah, there is a certain toxicity to the leaves. The one species that can digest the leaves is the koala, and it's very specially adapted to eat the eucalyptus leaves. But most other animals and even plants are somewhat discouraged when the leaves are falling on the ground. So it tends to move towards a eucalyptus forest, and I don't think there are many species that coexist with the eucalyptus too well.
Yeah, the eucalyptus leaves actually become quite toxic, and the koala bear needs to have at least 6 varieties of eucalyptus because it eats the leaves, as you say, Meta, until they become too toxic, and then they have to move to another species that's less toxic. Otherwise, they get drunk, basically, and fall out of the trees. But you're right. They are kind of a messy tree in that they do drop their bark. They do smell nice. Walking through the eucalyptus forest was very pleasurable. And from an economic point of view, they're fast growing, so you can harvest them fairly quickly.
I buy little bottles of eucalyptus oil when I have a cough or something, and you can inhale it, and it does something to you, I think. Yeah. Okay. But we didn't ever have any eucalyptus tree or koala bears around our eucalyptus tree. I guess nobody had. I guess it wouldn't work because we didn't have 6 different varieties of them. They were all the same kind of species, I imagine. Yeah. Okay, so listen, I think I should put you, Brian, in touch with our Half Moon Bay new guy who's very industrious and ready to get to work. I've assigned him the task of making contact and building a relationship with the Center for AI Safety in Berkeley, which is run by Stuart Russell, or it was created by Stuart Russell, I think still run by him. And he is the guy who had written the one textbook about AI that is most used in the world. Apparently, it's used in about 170 universities, introductory level computer science courses in the world. And he's a real sweetie. I did a talk show with him and Francis Fukuyama about 6 months ago. And he's such a nice man. We had to postpone our episode for a week because he had suddenly been called to. He's British, and he had been called to Buckingham Palace to give a briefing about current safety issues in AI. And of course, his real concern, his main concern, has to do with the alignment issue, the problem of agents taking over because they have their own goals, and we have no way of making sure that their purposes are compatible with our own. And I hope that, that's what you guys are going to be talking about next week?
Oh, the identity workshop, I think is mixed on AI, but I think decentralizing our identities, our digital identities, is going to be a key aspect. And this really extends beyond individuals. For example, Zoom has access to all our data here, and especially if it's recorded and whatnot. And they pretend to not really pay attention to it, but increasingly the centralized superscalar companies are using this data to profile us and learn everything they can about us. So this internet identity
what purpose? Why do they want to know about you? To double cross you?
They can sell us things. They'll like Google, right? And so it's all about monetizing it at some level.
But you're not accusing them of trying to interfere with your activities?
Not directly interfere, but I think there is a question of data sovereignty. And what Internet Identity Workshop is both at our individual level, how do we manage our digital data and can it be decentralized? And then the second is group identity, and that includes this global town hall. And that is, can we make group identity be a first-class entity so that we can bring tools in like Proton Drive, like Proton Documents, like it's like Google Drive or Google Docs, but without the centralization. I think that's a key opportunity going forward, is to have, as individuals and groups, first-class ability to manage our data sovereignty individually and collectively. Because data is the new oil. Data is the new oil. We're being mined to, develop the next AI model.
Yeah, I know. Okay. And by the way, I should inform everybody that I am really mad at Zoom. They have upgraded, they think, and improved their system, and it is impossible. Yesterday I spent all afternoon because I was doing something and I tried to do a screen share, and then I couldn't get out of the video that I was trying to screen share. I had to terminate my conversation and work all afternoon with an assistant trying to figure out what was wrong. And I cannot learn to navigate and cooperate and use Zoom. So I'm about to switch to something called Riverside, which is a platform that has certain advantages. It's brand new, or at least it has never been popular until now. But it's one platform where I can not only record things, go live stream things, edit it, and get transcripts and even get translations into 30 languages, and then have it posted to a whole bunch of different sites for me within one platform. So that, although I think it's going to be a hard learning curve for me to learn to master it, it sounds like it might, if they'll just stay put and stop fiddling around and changing everything and tripping me up, then I can, I'll learn things, but I don't want to be having, play dirty tricks on me while I'm in the middle of a show ever again. Anyway, Pierre, you have had your hand up, and I have not properly acknowledged you. Welcome.
I was just wondering, after hearing all these ecological interesting facts shared by Dr. Denton and Dr. von Herzen. I'm showing off a bit of my German that I learned in 4 years in Vienna. They have very much, I appreciated this conversation. But my theory is that since United Nations have voted in January 2021 the Nuclear Weapons Prohibition Treaty, NATO made sure that a censorship is applied in their 32 countries, official medias against United Nations. And that's why we can't share all these ecological facts and with the different powers of United Nations, and that's why the facts are not getting through to the population. But I'm happy that it's getting through today in our conversation.
I would agree, and I'm glad you mentioned the UN. One thing that came out of the last week, including a governance, I attended a new democracy workshop, an unconference yesterday at the Frontier building, which was wonderful. And what really came out is the notion that consent over consensus is what we need to aim for in our groups, including the UN Security Council, which is currently broken because it insists on unanimous consent. And the question is whether it can be fixed or if we have to replace it. But until such time as we've adequately addressed this problem, which is, the whole veto power thing. In fact, you may recall that Canadian Prime Minister managed to eliminate the U.S. veto at NATO just in recent weeks, which I think is a real step forward.
I didn't know that. That's pretty good.
Yes. Yeah, it was a quiet thing that was done. I think he needed to get 23 votes, and that supermajority was achieved, and the U.S. no longer has unilateral veto power with respect to NATO actions.
Well, hot diggity. That's good news.
Good.
Okay. All right.
We need the same for the UN Security Council. We need to have the same. Get beyond the deadlock to make progress globally.
Mm-hmm. Hello, Alexei.
Hello.
Alex Belikov, you have your hand up.
Yes, I am glad that Pierre mentioned the nuclear issues, and actually today is very important day that I hope will be not overseen if we think about nuclear topics, because today is 40 years anniversary of the Chernobyl nuclear disaster.
Wow.
And as you know, Matt, we discussed this topic many times, even in class with your students. And nuclear safety is big problem. And I am really happy that I was able to do workshop on nuclear safety at the University of California at Berkeley in 2015 years ago. But anyway, at that time, I published an article about security after nuclear accidents, and what I see today, it's quite a topic, but it creates a lot of pressure on international organizations. I know that even World Health Organization organized a training in Middle East on nuclear safety and security because they are prepared for different scenarios that can appear in this war. And what we see now, nuclear safety is still issue even in Chernobyl, because Chernobyl was occupied by Russian military in 2022. Then military leaders finally recognized their stupid idea because most of the soldiers were contaminated by radiation. They have to stay in Belarus recovery, where they have a large Belarusian radionuclides center.
Hold on. Stop. I'm not sure I know what you're talking about. You're saying that the Russian military, not now, but it was still Soviet, that the Soviet military were not allowed to go into the Chernobyl area? Is that what you're saying?
No. I say that after the active invasion of Russian military started in 2022, Russian military occupied Chernobyl zone.
Yeah.
It was in the news everywhere, actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah, got
But
it.
especially today, we speak about nuclear risks during the conflict times, because in Ukraine, the nuclear power station is still occupied by Russian military. So, I am so surprised people are overlooking risks. I have one colleague in Switzerland, and she said to me, talking with you, it's completely different perspectives than talking with people in Switzerland, because they consider their major risk like AI and climate change. But we don't think about nuclear risk. We don't think about conflicts. It's like we live in two different universes, And thinking about situation in Ukraine, it's important to remember that even after 40 years of disasters, this site is still not safe. And contamination will remain, and cleaning activities will continue at least 2065. It's another a good chunk of our time life. I am not sure even if all will survive this, but it's good to understand that what happens right now with different conflicts worldwide, it's a serious ecological crisis, and it's even worse that what we have with climate change, for example. And even with climate change, all military missions we have are uncounted. We can speak about the poor influence of agriculture on climate change or whatever else, but nobody really counted emissions from military worldwide. And what I see in peer review literature, emissions from military are close to emissions of the large countries like India. And this is supposed to be a topic for our conversation. And thinking about Chernobyl, that I visited few times during my work as a journalist in Ukraine, I still many lessons of Chernobyl were not learned properly, even with international organization. After the war in Ukraine started, we see international organizations speak about risks, nuclear explosions, but nothing really done to prevent it. It's good for World Health Organization provides training, but what about peace activities? It's better to eliminate risks completely. And this is why I am engaged in environmental peace building topics. This is why I am engaged in Chernobyl-related topics, and I appreciate your support during the last years about nuclear issues we discussed many times.
Thank you. Yeah, Brian.
Yeah, those are great points. It's interesting to me that nature was rebounding exponentially in Chernobyl up until 2022 because the humans had left. And in spite of the additional radiation, it appears that the human blight on the land is more severe than the radiation because many animals came back. Of course, we don't know what's happened since the Russians have taken over. Also, interestingly, there were new microbes identified that were obtaining their energy directly from the radiation of the plant. It appears that the mitochondria were absorbing some of the energy and using it for cellular processes in the
Wow, that's news.
That was an evolution of perhaps a new species or adapted species that has been occurring. The third is to realize that Zaporizhia, there's a clear and present danger, and that is in wartime, the two riskiest times are when a facility like Zaporizhia is being taken over, but then also when when Russia continues to collapse, there's going to be again a time of danger with the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, and of course, these energy facilities are used as pawns in a war game. And it becomes really critical. So as people look to put up more and more nuclear plants, what will happen in the future wars when these facilities come under attack? And if they're destroyed, of course, huge amounts of radiation will be released.
Thank you very much for Zaporizhia, because Zaporizhia nuclear power station is the largest nuclear power station in Europe. And what happens there sign that, again, international organizations, European organizations are ignorant, they cannot provide any proper support. And if enemies attack a nuclear power station, we don't even need any weapons, We already had the Chernobyl disaster and then later Fukushima disaster. And actually, I compared food safety and security issues after both disasters in Chernobyl and Fukushima. And today, I posted my previous article and new ebook on Chernobyl on my LinkedIn profile, because I believe it's really important to share this information. We are not safe from a nuclear risk. And on one side, nuclear renaissance now for various reasons, but on the other side, we completely overlook all risks that are coming, conflict rich environments like Ukraine or Middle East right now.
Yeah, and there's some speculation that the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant has been rigged with explosives, so that the Russians could
No.
destroy it if they need to or want to at any
But
time.
they wouldn't, surely, because there's no way you could blow up something like that without creating another Chernobyl.
I'll look for the evidence, but I wouldn't be surprised, given the use of other weapons.
Well, I would not rule out the possibility that Russia would use a tactical nuclear weapon of the size of Hiroshima. That I think they threaten to do. I wouldn't be surprised if they do it. If they actually are losing the war big time and really can't fight any longer, that I wouldn't be surprised. But I would be more surprised if they would actually do something like deliberately blow up a power plant, because that it releases all kinds of variables that are not controllable, and they could not predict what would happen, and it would be worse, wouldn't it? I mean, everybody knows it'd be worse than
They've threatened it. They've threatened it already, and of course, the missiles were very close to Zaporizhia already. It's cooled down a little bit, but keep in mind, I mean, Russia is collapsing right now as we speak, according to, Anton and others. And I think the challenge is to Konstantin, sorry, and others. And the challenge is, as Russia continues to collapse, how will we keep the Zaporizhia region stable? And I think that's going to be a key question in the months ahead.
We had in Radio Canada yesterday a whole hour on program on television on the Chernobyl event. There was, and they gave an interesting theory that Gorbachev power diminished from that event until 1989, when he accepted that the wall in Berlin could be now sort of in the past. But I don't agree with you, Dr. von Hertzen, that Zaporizhia was built by Russians, and only from the pride of building such huge station as Alexei said, that is the biggest in East Europe. I think I would be much more worried about Ukrainians attacking Zaporizhia. Now the loss of power of United Nations make this kind of ventures to happen more realistic, and I'm quite afraid about this. And we should invite for the next, for your next presentation, dear Meta, we should invite the president of Science for Peace, who just wrote a very, very strong letter against Carney's policy, which is sort of building this horrible 5% NATO objective of weapons for Canada, and which prevents Canada from progressing in the social realms and protecting their children, their women, and everything. So, thank you.
Well, I don't invite people particularly to give presentations here. This is entirely this particular monthly show is always a town hall kind of thing, where people who show up are free to claim the microphone for a period of time. But I do have other people that I invite for regular 1 hour long presentations or interviews or conversations. So
yes, but Dr. Filmus, Jorge Filmus, is emeritus professor from University of Toronto, so he's very close to you, and he should be. One should hear what he has to say, which is so important.
I can thank you. I will get to him about a conversation. It won't be in this series, but you can always go to our Substack series. It's you look up Project Save the World on Substack, and you can find all of the ones that we've done in the last several years available, as well as all of the peace magazines, so you can watch them that way.
We wrote a letter blaming to the ambassador of Russia when the war started, saying that we will not be anymore, we will never go anymore in Russia because of this attack. But 2 months later, the late President Karzai of Afghanistan said, please, to Zelensky, please negotiate with Russia, because if you don't negotiate, you will become a country just like ours, which was destroyed by 25 or 30 years of proxy wars between Russia and between America, and there's no way for you to get away from this war and by not negotiating. And that's what also it happened in Turkey, where there was an agreement that was negotiated because of Turkey and other intermediates, and that NATO made sure that it would not go forward because they liked the idea of Ukraine being murdered, Ukrainians being murdered for the sake of Americans' wish to make Russia weaker. And it's not a question of being propagandic in one side or the other. It's a question of being realistic, and a question of I sent you a material which was written by 2 University of Montreal professors, and I don't agree with them completely, because they never accepted, they never said that Russia was guilty of invading Ukraine, like we did in Les Artistes pour la Paix. So that it's very, very difficult dialogue, because people are rejecting this kind of trying to be in the middle.
It's time to give a Russian the floor.
Russian.
You say you're no longer Russian, really?
I don't know. I no longer feel like a Russian.
All right. You feel like a Pole now.
Rather like a Pole.
Alexei fled from Russia to keep from being sent to kill Ukrainians. He first went to Turkey, and then he went to Poland, and he's been living in Warsaw for nearly 3 years now, right?
Already 4 years almost.
Nearly 4 years. Yeah. Okay. So you have thoughts about what you've been well, I don't want to call this a debate. I don't think it is a debate. It's some kind of
deliberative discussion.
Deliberative or inflammatory discussion. In any case, Alexei, when you hear this conversation, what is your own feeling about it?
Well, this is a topic that I wanted to bring up today because I was mindful of the event, the sad, tragic event that happened 40 years ago, and I wanted to use this occasion to once again honor the victims of that event and honor the people who tried, who risked, and who lost their lives and their health trying to mitigate the drastic effects of that catastrophe. Because I was two years old when it happened, and it was maybe the first thing I remember watching. Like the television was on, and as a kid, as a toddler, I remember hearing the word Chernobyl, and my parents were scared about their future, about my own future. And Alex was quite right saying that another disaster happened 4 years ago, actually, in 2022, when Putin's military tried to attack Kyiv, and they went into Ukraine through Belarus. They used Belarus as a platform for their attack, and very illustratively for the neglect of human life, typical of Russia, of the Soviet Union. They sent their soldiers through the Chernobyl disaster zone, where many soldiers were killed by the radiation. Some got terrible diseases. Some died in Belarus afterwards. This was, of course, not on the Russian media or wherever. It was not by any means. It was not covered by propaganda. But there are accounts of people dying of Putin's aggressive army soldiers dying in Belarus because of the radiation. So this is how it returned, how the future, how the past influenced the present in a very dramatic way.
Yeah,
And,
let me stop you
Sure.
there, because you're saying something that's totally new to me. And in fact, it puzzles me whether or not that's likely, because I think, as Brian said a while ago, in the zone around Pripyat, the animals are thriving. There's the wildlife has recovered very well. And so there they are in the most dangerous spot, and where the radiation is still strong, but it's not killing them. So why would Russian soldiers walking in Belarus, if there were watching, maybe they were going through buses or whatever, but if they went through Belarus, how could they get enough radiation exposure to be killed?
They're going into the hot zones.
Yeah, I think the first point that needs to be made here is that there is total neglect for human life in Russian tradition. So the generals which were working out the plan, they didn't care about the lives of the soldiers. What they cared about is to get closer to Kyiv in the shortest way possible and in the most unexpected way possible. I think like the Ukrainian generals who care for their soldiers.
I agree with you that they do have that tendency, but what I'm wondering, just mechanically, scientifically, how this is possible. You mean there are areas of hot zones in Belarus that are more dangerous than the zone around Chernobyl itself?
No, they're in
not
Chernobyl.
Really. That's not what I meant. I was getting at it. And my point was
that's what Brian said, didn't you, Brian?
Sure.
That
it's in Chernobyl. Chernobyl has hot zones. Chernobyl has the hot zones, and then later they die in Belarus. But no, the hot zones are in Chernobyl.
Well, but then if they sent through Belarus, why would Russia? Frankly, I've not heard of anybody getting that much exposure in Chernobyl since many, very close to the time of the accident, because people go there as a tourist. I have several friends who've gone there without special gear or anything. They walk through these
stalkers,
areas and certainly get a certain amount of exposure. I wouldn't go there, but I know friends who do, and they think it's kind of a fun thing, as a tourist to do. But they come home alive and healthy. So why would soldiers in Belarus be exposed to extraordinary amounts of radiation now?
And here is the catch. And here is the catch, because those excursions, those trips only last for like 1 or 2 hours. And the soldiers not only spent several days there, and during those trips, you are not allowed to go beyond paved roads. You are only allowed to you measure your radiation, the radiation around you.
Alexei, there are
Sure.
old people who refuse to leave, and who, I don't know how many of them are still alive there, but I read an article a few years ago saying that these old people, like 90 years old or 80 or 70 anyway, wouldn't be evacuated. They said they'd rather stay at home and die, and they
That's
were
right.
doing fine. So I don't want to argue with you, but because I really I want to. I like you. I don't want to argue with you, but I really have trouble understanding how anybody could be exposed nowadays to excessive radiation just in the natural environment around
But
Chernobyl.
then they started to dig trenches. They
Yeah.
started to dig trenches in the most dangerous areas, in the Red Forest, the so-called Red Forest, which is probably the worst hit part of the Chernobyl zone. It's the pinnacle of what you could get in terms of radiation. And they were ordered to dig deep into the ground to make things absolutely worse, the worst way possible. And they spent like 1 month in there, and that's how they get the radiation. That's what I read. That's what I heard. I may be mistaken, but I heard it from authoritative sources. Okay, I may be wrong.
Ryan,
No, Alexei is completely correct, and it's this digging of trenches and the fallout that's sitting in the soil, and that's the difference. Any old folks that are living there, they're living many kilometers or dozens of kilometers away, and if you're going right into the red forest and you're digging trenches and you're breathing the dust, there's definitely been acute radiation sickness and reports of fatality in Belarusian hospital.
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
You are both right. That was by digging these trenches that Russian soldiers became ill. But Marta, this is always this doubt if it is the radiations, or is it COVID-13 that makes people sick. And you had this bunch of crazy Albertans going to Ottawa to protest that, no, the COVID restrictions we don't need it, and this is always the irresponsibility of people, whether they are Russian soldiers or whether they are Canadian Albertans, thinking that the rules about COVID should be eliminated and come to Ottawa to make a revolution with Pierre Poilievre and other irresponsible people. And so, but
Alex, Belka.
I would like to address this perception about contamination areas. I have been many times to Chernobyl area and did pictures there. And you know what is interesting? At that time we used black-white film and brought to the headquarters of my daily newspaper my film developer, and my colleagues told me, in one place you have this black sign. It looks like UFO or something specific. And another journalist asked me what exactly, but specialists in our club in the newspaper told me it's just sign of radiation. You was exposed to radiation, and black and white can cut. And it was only place where fire engines and helicopters were stored in the Chernobyl area, used from the first days of recovery. And it's literally one step away. You can use some areas that are not contaminated anymore, and step 2 steps aside, you are completely in danger zone. This is one. Another thing about thriving animals, it's actually not completely true. People see numbers of animals around and they believe they are thriving in this environment. But also, American scientists did detailed investigation of the genetics of animals. And in 2016, we had a very nice paper at University of Toronto, some of US scientists, and they presented exactly genetic investigations and show how different, for example, in normal looks like and how the same eye develops in the bird living in the Chernobyl. So we don't know very often how long animals live and how healthy they are. They definitely benefit from lack of anthropogenic factors, area where humans are eating animals enjoy, but at the same time they are not healthy, and this is completely huge misconception that addressed occasionally. But people and the mass media like nice pictures. They want to believe in something and they find arguments that they have thrived in Chernobyl area. It's not completely true. And I spoke with older people living there. They call some Osioli, some self-returned. They have a really hard time. Ukraine didn't recognize the rights to reserve for safety reasons for a long time. They didn't receive any proper support. They had no opportunity to buy even bread and groceries. And many years later, they started to get out Olavka, just was bringing bread once a week to some areas which older people live. So it's very complex issue, and we should understand that some senior people have right to live where they want. It's not so easy, of course, but there are no safe places in the 30-kilometer Chernobyl zone. It's good to understand the reason why this 30-kilometer zone is actually still protected.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that is, I tend to take your word for things more than my own guesswork or what I've read in the various papers. So I don't know. But is there any, we have enough, we have half an hour left, almost 25 minutes. And I think we're about to finish off with this topic. But if you have any final thoughts about, yes, Brian, let's make that about the last comment on this topic. And you folks who have other thoughts that you want to share, we'll open the floor for other issues after Brian.
Yeah, Alex is right. The mutation rate is likely higher for these animals. These bacteria that are actually gaining energy from the radiation was an evolution. It may have been very quick evolution. And finally, I think it just underscores the magnitude of the impact that humanity has on the rest of nature, to the extent that in spite of all the radiation, in spite of all these difficult things, when the humans leave nature alone, there's a remarkable recovery. Nature tends to rebound exponentially. And sometimes we need to help nature a little bit to recover. So I think those three messages come through loud and clear. Thank you, Alex, for your clear description and your experience there.
Good, thank you. Okay, well, we've gone around and around on this one. I've learned a lot. Bill Lycum and Charles, I think you both probably have, and maybe Marilyn have something new to update us about your own concerns.
Well,
we haven't spoken much.
Yeah, I'd like to follow up on that comment about leave nature alone. I really think that we have to dismantle a lot of what we have put into place, we humans, in order to allow nature to recoup itself and to, regain what it innately has to offer. And so I would say that, the less we interfere, the better nature is going to be. And that has long range implications too, going all the way to the survival of you and me, the human race. So,
How so? Give me an example of how that I depend on some gray fox or something.
well, not necessarily gray fox, but predators in general are the, can I call it the engine that creates a good biosystem that is working and allowing animals and not only animals but insects and everything else in the biosystem to generate itself and balance itself. Like, for instance, okay, I will take an example from the gray fox. In 2016, I was monitoring 25 foxes and documenting their behavior. Canine distemper came along and wiped them all out. All 25 died. As a result, the jackrabbit population, the cottontail population, all the other populations in the environment began to explode. And in that explosion, what they did was they started to, they created imbalance in the ecosystem out there. There was all kinds of things went on. And for a good long while, the jackrabbits and so forth dominated the scene until the coyotes found them in this one locale. And when the coyotes moved in and started to have the rabbits for food, the balance returned. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so that has effect on agriculture specifically.
Now, would the coyotes compete with the gray fox? I mean, if you could import some more gray foxes and try to reestablish the population there, would they have a chance, or would the coyotes make short work of them?
Yeah, the coyotes would. There's been studies on this. And what happens is that if the coyotes move into an area, the gray fox moves out. And I've seen that and documented that about 6-8 months ago. That very thing happened in the territory, the area that I have my trail cameras.
The gray foxes are gone. They're never going to be able to come back.
Yeah, that's what I'm watching right now. There's every once in a while a coyote will come through the area. What happened about 6-8 months ago, a pair of gray foxes came into the area. They surveyed the area. Everywhere that I have cameras, they showed up, and they were checking the area for safety. And when they found out that the coyotes were in the area, they departed. They left. Mm-hmm. And so I'm once again waiting for the gray foxes to return and the coyotes to leave. It looks like the coyotes are departing the area.
What would the coyotes live on?
Oh, well, the coyotes live on, like I said earlier, jackrabbits and rodents and all those kinds of things. In the cities, though, they get into dumpsters and those kinds of things to get food.
Uh-huh.
And cats and dogs, they will take them out.
So it's kind of undetermined so far who's going to be the winner in this turf war between jackrabbits, gray foxes, and coyotes, right?
Yeah.
And canine distemper. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you know whether the canine distemper is gone? Yeah, are there any germs that can hang around after all the animals have been killed?
Well, that's a great question because nobody knows. I've talked with the lead veterinarian for the state of California when we had that big die out, and I said, "Where did it come from?" And she said, "We don't know," but she said, "We get reports like this all over the state of California almost every year. Not as big as yours, but still die-outs." And she said, "It looks like it's even in the dirt." That's the way she put it. However, I have another alternative, and that is that the canine distemper is in the rodent population. And the gray foxes and so forth, they eat those rodents and therefore come down with the virus, canine distemper. Raccoons can get canine distemper too, but they don't eat rodents. So the raccoon population is pretty robust out there, whereas the gray fox population is, I mean, the gray foxes are not living in the area that I monitor.
What we're both seeing is a disruption because of urbanization. So, in other words, you have roads, you have buildings that are fragmenting the environments, and it's causing so many problems. But even beyond that, when I'm seeing a lot also personally in my cameras. Now, my focus is on our local mountain lions and our local bobcats. And what's happening is now the open spaces, they're allowing trails to be put in through the open spaces. And what's happening is it's very disruptive to the wildlife, not just the lions and the mountain lions and the foxes and the coyotes, but people are also using those trails late at night. And you have bobcats, they're crepuscular, and they are around, they hunt at night, they live at night, a lot of stuff at night. People should not be around. Now these animals don't have, they're being disrupted. I have videos of where my two cameras are, and there's a T in the trail. There's a one trail that goes into the other. And my camera is focused on it, and it's 10 p.m. at night, and I have an idiot that is walking and jogging and kind of drunk going up the trail, and at the same time there is a mountain lion literally about 15 feet from that person, just sitting waiting for that idiot to go by, and then looking and then proceeding. And that is just highly disruptive for the mountain lions and for all of them. So, and also genetically, it's making it very difficult. And so you're having a lot of mutations, all sorts of terrible stuff, a lot of inbreeding.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I've got an idea for you. If you have a surplus of bobcats, you want to take them to Florida, because I was watching a video about it, and the pythons, the Burmese pythons, that have become a huge problem in the Everglades. Right. Well, it seems that now they are finding these snakes with their head bitten off, and they had a hell of a time figuring out what in the world could be doing it. These snakes had really destroyed the population of all kinds of other critters that had been in the Everglades before they got established. And then they found out that the first I think there are actually 2 or 3 different animals that are able to do this, but the first one they found was the bobcat. And they even got a picture of the bobcat sort of watching from just the right distance. Sort of they were a little bit apart, just the right, so that the bobcat was waiting for a chance to bite off his head. And of course, he was in danger himself. But mainly, apparently, the bobcats win now, and so they're finding more and more pythons with their heads bitten off, which personally, I'm glad to see that happen. I'm much more favorable to the bobcats than I'm on the side of the bobcats and not the snakes. Anyway, I interrupted Brian, who has something to share.
Sure. I think there's a parable here, and that is they've been introducing thousands of bison back to the plains from Texas to North Dakota. And what they're finding is that within 2 years, the bison are so well evolved for that environment that they are regenerating these wild fields from old pasture land remarkably quickly. And you would think cattle or cows would be similar to bison, but they're not. They require a lot of attention. They get sick, all sorts of problems, and the bison take care of themselves. So this is a wonderful metaphor in the coyote versus the gray fox. The gray fox has evolved for millions of years in the ecosystem that Bill is probably working in. And so I would suggest that, in fact, the gray fox, if reintroduced, would have no difficulty displacing the coyotes because they're not adapted highly to that environment. And I wouldn't be surprised to see that in a way similar to what we've seen for the bison. So I think there's an enormous respect we must pay to the millions of years of evolution that these natural ecosystems have experienced and the synergies, multidimensional, that occur. And that, if we give nature half a chance, she will rebound exponentially. That said, I'm very hopeful for rewilding of most pasture land and most farmland, because 3 new technologies are coming to bear that will feed 8 to 10 billion people, while at the same time enabling most pasture land and farmland to be rewilded. And that includes precision fermentation, precision agrivoltaics, and precision mariculture. Thanks.
Marilyn.
I have a question, Brian.
Please.
Why are you saying that coyotes are not adapted to the environment? Why
I don't have the detail of Bill's ecosystem. However, I can say that coyotes are somewhat generalists. They tend to hang out, along with humans, and a bit like ravens do as well. They adapt well. But there's no substitute for a bison in place of a cow on the Great Plains.
Well, what does that have to do with coyotes?
Well, the gray fox is highly adapted to the biomes that Bill studied.
I think the coyotes are as adapted as the foxes are, wouldn't you say, Bill? I mean,
Yeah, I would.
My sense is that if Bill, the impression I'm getting, Bill, maybe you can correct me, is that pre-industrially, the gray foxes were dominant over coyotes in this region, and it was only the destruction of the gray foxes that resulted in the coyotes coming in.
No, I would not say that's accurate.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll need to learn more. Let us know what ecosystem you're talking about.
I'm sorry, Brian. I was just wondering. Yeah.
The point is that there are species that are highly adapted to ecosystems, and we should respect those commonalities.
But it makes sense. Your analogy with the bison and the cows makes a lot of sense. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. What ecosystem are you working in, Bill?
Well, I'm working at the interface between the wild, so to speak, along a creek that has riparian habitat, and the backyards of people. There's a municipal service center. It's an interface between the urban and wild areas.
And what's the name of the bioregion? Is there a particular bioregion?
Palo Alto Baylands.
Yeah, it's along the San Francisco Bay.
Okay. Thank
You
you.
guys are about 100 miles apart right now.
Very good.
It's you know where Highway 101 is, right?
Yeah.
And you move easterly to the San Francisco Bay.
Yeah.
It's that strip of land that's in between Highway 101 and the San Francisco Bay.
Okay. And why and when were these foxes eliminated?
The 2016 die out happened in 2 months. All 25 were dead from canine distemper.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I hate to interrupt, but we're getting toward the end, and I have an appeal or an announcement followed by an appeal, which is that we have finished this week the final 5th meeting of the global warming inquiry that Project Save the World has been hosting, and I've been making it into a video which will be posted on Substack, and we'll also have an essay about it, and we will post the results of the deliberations that we did over a 5-week period. The results will be in the form of a document with recommendations for which of the several, about 5, I think, or 6 of the 20 proposed interventions, which were mostly geoengineering types of interventions. About 5 of them we consider highly promising, very ready to go. We think the value has been pretty well established, and it's time to actually do further research and implementation. So that document will be available for anybody who wants to use it for lobbying or any other purpose. That will be posted sometime this week. Now, on the 13th of May, which is a couple of weeks away, we will start the next inquiry, which is going to be about war. This is an inquiry into the nature, the current conditions of war, the ethics of war, the history of war, a number of different concerns about how to prevent war in future. And I don't have the curriculum, so to speak, developed yet, but it will be developed later this week, and I'll post it as an invitation to everybody to sign up. The only thing about these, you're all eligible to sign up for free because you've been participating in many ways in helping Project Save the World, and therefore you're eligible to become supporters or members, rather, of Project Save the World and get into it, these inquiries for free. But you need to register. We are now in the last stage of developing a reply to the Canadian Revenue, which so far has turned down our request for charitable status, but we're still appealing. And this week I'm going to be devoting all my time to writing an answer to some of their questions, final questions. And one of the important things is that we have to show that we are doing real education. And education means that people have to actually be enrolled in a project to make it count as educational. If you just drop in, that doesn't count. The law is explicit that magazines are not educational products. Because you can subscribe to a magazine and leave it on your coffee table and never open it. But, if you're in a course, we know whether you've taken the course and finished it and whether you got a good mark and that sort of thing. So you have to enroll or register, which you can do online. And they don't count broadcasting as educational, even though people can educate themselves with broadcasting. Still doesn't count because nobody knows whether you've done it or not, and you're not accountable to anybody. So we have to get you registered to show that you're involved with this project. So I'd like everybody to think in the next couple of weeks about going to our website, and there'll be a place where you can click and register, and you can do it for free. But I really, really want you to get a number of people who will do a little real research, or not so much research as reading assignments. I will send reading documents for you before each of the weekly meetings so that you can all have some common basis for the conversation. We'll have all read the same stuff and talk about the same topic, and that will be announced. Each meeting will be announced. So I just want to let you know that I'm counting on my friends to register and show up and really participate in conversations that are very similar to what we've been doing today. But the difference is it is focused a little bit on a particular topic that will be announced in advance, and the readings will be written in advance. And by participating, you help demonstrate, you help me show evidence to the CRA that we do have an educational project, that what we're doing is real education in the legal sense of the word, according to the Canadian definition of education. So are any of you willing to do that? And if you have a question, ask it right now, because I'm not going to prolong this much longer. You need to know anything about this new inquiry on war? No, you're not? All right. I don't know what that means. And Charles, I apologize. You didn't get I never called on you today, but everybody else was so full of events and ideas that I thought we had a good conversation. And I appreciate it. Did you have a good time today? I did. All right. Thank you so much. I learned a lot and I enjoyed it. And bless you all. See you next month.
Yeah.
Last Sunday of the month. Okay?
Take care, everyone.
All right. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye. Thank you. Thank you.